Ahoy folks, and welcome back to Broadside Gaming with me, Zug. So, we have got another Hive Scum build for you today, and this is a combination of a lot of testing and working we've been doing since the release, and I think you're going to really like this one. So let's jump in and see what we're using. So, we are using a different set of shivs from our usual ones, which is this. The bog standard is Uncanny Strikes, Precognition, Crit, and Carapace. But this is going to be a little sneak peek into what the build's all about. So the modifiers are the same: mobility, seal the dump. Everything else is maxed: damage, first target, finesse, and penetration. Lol. Perk wise, we are sticking with crit and carapace, though you can change crit for crit damage. So keep that in mind. Blessings wise, we're going with flesh terror and riposte. So just keep that in mind. We'll come back to it when we talk about talents. Needle pistol, exactly the same as we always use because it's an absolute workhorse. This thing will drop any big targets, basically. Mag dump into a crusher, all 5 shots or 6 shots, depending on your ammo. And you can just ignore it. 1 or 2 shots into a rager, again, same. You can just basically spray across a group of ragers, hoping you hit most of them and they will drop. So the needle pistol is a very good weapon to fall back on. If you cannot take something in melee, you retreat and you lay into them with the needle pistol and then watch them melt. This is on Auric in the Psychonarium, so all the breakpoints and all that will be Auric level, so they will work in Auric and Havoc. But yeah, basically 2 shots into Ragers, 1 shot into Shotgunners. Generally, they will fall apart. Again, Chief Ragers, 5 up for Ogrins, everything else. It's pretty simple, to be honest. Back off, lay into them. So, that is the needle pistol. Bog standard, works very well. We are using the Mark II, which means we can switch this over to an AoE mode when we need to. If we need to thin out a horde, you just fire a couple of shots into the horde, and then it will spread the tox around. This is why we're using the Mark II instead of the other one, because the other one does not spread the tox. It only does AoE explosion damage. Next up, we have the Curios. We are still using the twinned toughness Curios with toughness, combat ability regen, and damage resistance gunners. You can switch out the combat ability regen if you want to, depending on what you're playing. If you're playing Havoc, I would highly suggest either teammate revival speed, maybe corruption resistance, although corruption is a massive problem on the Hive Scum because we have talents we can load into to alleviate that problem. So you can change this from combat ability regeneration 2 plus health to teammate revival to stamina revival, whatever you think you need on certain missions. But if you're not playing high level, say 35 plus Havoc, you generally don't need it too much. So you can just copy that straight as it is. And then the third one, we are still using the incredibly sketchy +3 stamina. Now, I say this is sketchy because we are losing the health curio that would go in this point. If you are not massively confident on the Hive Scum yet, if you still feel like you need to do some more playing to get a feel for the class, stick with the health curio. That is going to give you a much smoother gameplay experience because the health curio is going to help with that chip damage. The Hive Scum is absolutely awful for if you take 1 unseen hit, it will absolutely cane you because the Hive Scum generally has no defense. So most of the time you are trying to avoid any hits, but you know, a stray hit is going to happen. And on the Hive Scum, that is a bit annoying. If you're playing, say, for example, the Ogrin or the Arbites, a stray hit doesn't matter too much. You can shrug it off. But the max stamina curio, again, as I said, you will lose that padding or your ability to soak up a hit or two, but you will gain an awful lot more ability to dodge, sprint, and all of that good stuff, which is why we're using it. Again, it's basically the same as the other ones. It's got toughness, stamina regeneration, and damage resistance gunners. Now, the reason we have stamina regeneration, I say this in every video, but people always seem to not understand why we're taking it. We're taking it not for the speed of the stamina regeneration. We are taking it for the speed at which it starts to regenerate, which is what stamina regeneration also affects. We don't care how fast it regenerates. We care about how fast it starts to regenerate. So that is why. But we're only taking it on 1 because it isn't hugely important that we have that instantly. So that is the gear, and we will talk about the shivs more in the talent portion. So we are going for a Tertium Welcome for 15% melee damage on the first enemy hit of each attack. Precision Violence, melee hits replenish 4% toughness, melee critical strikes on weak spot hits replenish 8, and critical weak spot strikes replenish 12. Float like a God, I can't speak. Float like a butterfly, there we go. A perfect blocks and successful dodges grant 20% critical strike chance for 3 seconds. This is wildly important for this build. We are then taking Burst of Energy, gain stun immunity for 6 seconds and restore 50% toughness, and toughness is when toughness is broken, the cooldown is 10 seconds. This is wildly powerful. This is what's going to help you survive a death hit. Then to the toughness boost, and we're taking the Boom Bringer. I've actually been using this a lot more recently over the Chem Grenade since they made the changes to the Boom Bringer. In this build, we get 4 uses out of it. And this is pretty much the, that group of crushers is going to maul me. Oh, wait. No, they're not. It has a very wide AoE, and it generally gets rid of anything in front of you. You can also use this on monstrosities, but do be careful because they do like to bob and weave a lot. And this thing has a bit of a delay when it comes to firing it. So you may think you're aiming, say, for a Chaos Spawn, you're aiming here. By the time you've fired, it could be over there. So my advice would be aim at its feet, or at least wait till it's stopped. Because things do, shuffle and jerk around as they're running towards you, safest bet, aim at the floor. The direct damage doesn't mean anything. The explosive damage is what does it all. So you don't have to actually directly hit what you're aiming at. Just close enough that it does take damage from the AoE. But of course, you can take the Chem Grenade if you want to. It is still very, very good. Though it will take a little bit longer to kill, say, a wave of crushers or maulers. But it generally will help. So it's kind of up to you what your preferred playstyle is. At the moment, I favour the Boombringer. And then we've got Gang Tough, which is 10% range damage and 10% toughness damage reduction, into Nimble, which is increasing dodges are extended by 25% and time considered dodging is increased by 50%. This is wildly powerful as well. This is what's going to be keeping us alive most of the time. Into Tis But a Scratch, replenish 30% toughness over 3 seconds after taking ranged toughness damage. Losing your toughness cancels the effect. This is what's going to keep us alive from the ranged chip damage, which is what we can't do very much about. Apart from dodging and hiding, we are going to take ranged chip damage, and this is going to help smooth that out. And then we're taking Anarchist, which is giving us 5% crit, then down into Toughness Booster, and then we're taking Rampage. Rampage replenishes all of our toughness. And we enter Rampage for 10 seconds. For the duration, we gain 50% melee power, 20% melee attack speed, and 25% damage reduction, as well as becoming stun immune and suppression immune. Melee strikes extend the duration by 0.3 seconds, and after 20 seconds, the extending becomes diminished. Upon exiting Rampage, lose all stamina and become exhausted for 7 seconds, gaining 25% damage taken and 75% stamina regeneration speed for the duration. Now, this is a very annoying debuff, but with how it works, you can basically pop this along with your stim and you become an absolute killing machine maniac. And generally, it will fall off because you don't have anything to hit anymore. So that 7-second downtime is just kind of, you just fiddle around with the group and then head in. So it's not quite as punishing as it seems to be. We're also taking Pulverizing Strikes, which gives us plus 50% cleave while Rampage is active. But more importantly, additionally gain 2.5% melee power for every second spent with the ability active up to 10 times. And then we're taking Boiling Blood. Melee strikes against elites and monstrosities extend the duration of rampage by 1 second. Additionally, the time before extending becomes diminished is now 30 seconds. So this is also going to help it roll. We're not taking challenge aggression because it's just not very good. I mean, it only works off for the first 50%, and even it and how it looks at the moment, I don't know if this is a bug or not, but if you drop below 50%, but then manage to claw your way back over 50% with the with this or with however you're extending it, channeled aggression doesn't proc again. It doesn't turn back on. So it if it wasn't so limited, it would be good, but it is, so it's not. And we can't quite afford to take Forge's Bellow in this build at the moment. I do like it. It's a nice little survivability trick to basically knock back the wave in front of you and give you time to position yourself, but we kind of need every point at the moment, so we can't quite afford it. Then we'll head over here on to the left. We're taking 5% crit. We're going down into Swift Endurance for 2% increased melee attack speed for each current stamina. Going down into Hypercritical. Critical strikes instantly kill human-sized enemies if their current health is less than 2 times the amount of damage with a critical strike. And then the Sweep Spot for 25% weak spot damage. Now, there is some confusion between Hypercritical and Hyperviolence. People are saying they do not work together. As far as I can tell, they do at the moment. They do seem to work because the more important of the two abilities would be Hyperviolence. So if it turns out that it stops working again or they break it, get rid of Hypercritical for Hyperviolence. Hyperviolence is the better workhorse in this build than Hypercritical is. And we're going over here to the middle for 10% melee damage. Then into Battering Strikes. Melee kills grant 10% melee cleave for 5 seconds, stacking 5 times. This is quite powerful, especially with the shivs, because this is turning a very focused pinpoint weapon and giving it a little bit more reach when you're dealing with hordes. Then we're going into Punching Above One's Weight for 15% damage against elites and monstrosities, into Hyperviolence. Kills grant 25% of the difference between the damage dealt by your attacks and the health of the killed enemy as melee damage for 1 second. This is doubly important when we're using an incredibly high crit build, because this is actually making Hyperviolence twice as good as it normally is. And then we've gone for Hive City Brawler, which up to 20% damage reduction depending on your available stamina. Additionally, up to 20% melee damage depending on spent stamina, which is also improved by the Stamina Curio. And then we're into our Keystone Tree for 10% Toxin Strength. Coated Weaponry. Melee critical strikes infect enemies with 1 stack of Chem Toxin. We have a very large amount of crit in this build, so basically everything is getting this. Into Extra Pouches for 1 extra Blitz charge, and then down into Sample Collector. Kills replenish 1% of your Cartel Special. Cooldown, killing Chem Tox infected enemies instead replenishes 2. So all kills replenish 1%. Chem Tox kills replenish 2. And with Coated Weaponry and the shivs and the amount of crit we have in this build, almost everything is giving you 2%. And then we've got Chemical Dependency itself. Using a stim grants you a stack of dependency for 90 seconds. For each stack, gain 10% ability cooldown reduction, which is also why we don't care too much about it being on the Curios. Up to 3 max stacks. Stacks decay 1 at a time. But we are also getting stimming. Using a stim replenishes 50% toughness. Additionally, each stack of dependency grants 5 toughness damage reduction. And, of course, Chem Enhanced. Each stack of dependency additionally grants 5% critical hit chance. As we're not going for maxed out chems because it does screw over the stim quite a bit. That's giving us 15% crit on top of everything else. So, this build is a disgusting dot build with the amount of crit we have from the tree itself, which is, all of these. And of course, riposte on the weapons. We pretty much have guaranteed crits on every hit. I can't quite show it to you on this because I can't get the 20% crit to proc from riposte because I'm not running any mods at the moment and nothing counts as me dodging for it. last but not least, let's have a look at the Stim Lab. So the Stim Lab, this is something that's still being slightly tinkered with. You can go for the full 100% viscosity if you want to, but that does put our cooldown to 75 seconds, which is quite long. But for that, we take all of Spur for the attack speed. And the thing that I'm fiddling with at the moment is either going for the crit, which is giving us another 15% crit, or sticking with the rend, which is giving us 15% rend. I'm almost confident enough to say definitely go for the crit, but it requires testing. So if you folks want to try that out yourselves, go for it. I just don't want to give you a 100% yes, definitely go for this at the moment when it does require a lot more testing. This last little bit to see whether the crit is overkill and the rending is required, or the rending is pointless and the crit is required. So, you know, it is what it is there. But I would suggest going for this, going up to Spur 4. So we get 65 seconds. And with that, we can basically do some very silly things. The dot damage is absolutely lethal. So we're not only doing Tox, but we are also doing bleed. And Ogryns kind of aren't that much of a problem anymore. So not only can we deal with them with our melee weapons now, we can deal with them with our ranged weapon, we can deal with them with our blitz weapon. The only thing you need to be careful of is Ogryns are still bugged. Their overhead slam is about 50% bigger than it actually looks. So you may think you're out of the way when you're not. So please do be careful of that. I've not seen anything on the forums yet saying that Fat Shark has even, you know, said that this is a problem, which it is. But, you know, that's Fat Shark for you. They're on their Christmas holiday now, so don't expect this to be fixed until the new year. Yeah, it's an incredibly high dot build. As you know, in this game, dots are wildly powerful. So even with light attacks, we are generally just ripping through anything that isn't in Carapace. We've got massive weak spot damage, we've got bleed, we've got tox, we've got crit. Which is also why I was saying on the shivs, if you feel you have enough crit and you're feeling confident with it, you can change the melee critical hit chance to 10% melee critical hit damage, which is going to give us a big boost to the build. But until you're familiar with it and you're feeling confident with it, I would stick with the 5% crit, which is just going to smooth out the build a little bit more. But there you go, folks. That is the updated Hive Scum build. And I hope you enjoy it. If you do, please do like and subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. It really does help out the channel. And I shall see you all for the next one, which will hopefully be another Arbites build that I have been working on. And if you want to see that working on, there are videos up on the channel of us, Ugg and I, testing that. So do feel free to have a look at those. But anyway, until the next one, take it easy. I'll see you later.